Hiya, and welcome back to Distant Travels. I cannot think of anything. Can't think of like a pun or something like I tried to do. So instead, let's just hop right in. We hope you have had a pleasant flight with us on Fast Air Airways. Enjoy your stay in Broadtown. Looks like I slept through the entire flight. I must have really needed the rest. You've been waking up an hour earlier than usual the last few days, and there's been more excitement than you're used to. Plus you've been having a lot of dreams recently. Not that they were bad ones. Let's get going. Did Julia give you any information about where we're going? She sent me an email. Could you grab my bag? I'll check it meanwhile. As you take your phone out of flight mode, you get an email notification. Julia really went all out on this one. There's instructions for the hotel and even things to do if you get bored. Apparently you're being picked up at the airport? Interesting. We're being picked up at the airport. They'll have a sign at the gate. Really? Yikes, that's even more high profile than I'd imagined. You make your way out of the plane and to the meetup point. You and Nick barely have to wait half a minute before you hear someone approaching you. Hello there, you must be Alex and Nick.
Daddy. Daddy.
Hello there, you must be Alex and Nick. He greets the two of you with a firm handshake. As he smiles, you can't shake your head from how familiar the man in front of you seems. It's like you've met before, but you can't quite place it. And that deep, pleasant voice. A quote comes to mind. Once upon a time in a dream. But then again, you're only human after all, and your mind says one thing when you look at him. I had the exact same thought, what the fuck? Damn it. I gotta read it. Daddy, Bear, Wolf. You shake your mind from the thought. Time to be professional. This might be one of your or Nick's new bosses. Thank you, I'm Nick. I'm Alex. Nice to meet you. He gives you another smile, telling you that despite the suit he's wearing, he might not be expecting that much formality. I'm Commander Mike Steele. I'd like to welcome you to Broadtown, even though I'm not a local. Well, maybe there's a certain level of formality involved after all. Nick gives you a look that says 1,000 words. Military? The possibility had been there, but you had not expected it. I've been here a few times before. It's a pleasant town. I'd be more interested in hearing more about this job, if I'm to be honest with you, sir. Commander Steele raises an eyebrow as Nick says the final word of the sentence. I was actually hoping to have a small one-on-one interview with one of you tonight. If you're up for it, I'll ask a colleague of mine to hold the other interview at the same time. Nick looks at you. He seems to be interested in taking this chance. That sounds good to me. What about you, Nick? How about you go with the commander then, Alex? Nick turns to the commander as he tries to stifle a small yawn. I could use a few minutes at the hotel before I meet your colleague, to be honest. Perfect. Let's get moving. The car is waiting outside. As he's talking, he motions you to follow and leads you outside, towards a limousine. Oh wow, fancy. Definitely high profile. You can't help but wonder if you'll be good enough for this job if this is how they introduce things. I'll be interested to learn a little more about what kind of job this is. To put it bluntly, things have been a little secretive. There's been quite the hype with the application process and all the secrecy. I'm glad we're finally going to get to know more about it. The commander lets out a little chuckle. A bit like signing up for a blind date on a dating website, I imagine. You can't help but blush a little at that comment. Stay focused. The commander turns to you. Alex, about our little interview. There's a coffee shop across the street from your hotel. How about you check in with the hotel, then join me for some tea or coffee? And then I'll tell you what I can, for now. Maybe that'll shed some light on things for you. I'd like that. As for you, Nick, I'll have to send a few messages. You and Nick wait as he sends and receives a few messages on his phone. All set. My colleague Charles will be meeting you in the hotel lobby in about 20 minutes, Nick. As if on cue, the car stops outside a fancy hotel. I'll meet you there in a few minutes then? I'll wait inside for you. He gives you another warm smile as you exit the car. You check both you and Nick in with the number from the email Julia sent you. You didn't even need a credit card. She really did sort everything for you. I'm kind of glad you're getting this small interview first. I'm far too tired to make sense at the moment. You didn't manage to sleep on the plane then? No. To be honest, I'm not good with planes. Sorry. Not your fault. I'll see you in the morning, Alex. Text me when and where we're meeting tomorrow, will you? I will. See you tomorrow, Nick. You bring your bags back up to your room and freshen up a little in the bathroom before heading down to the coffee shop. The atmosphere is cozy, and there are not a lot of people around. Looks like you'll be sitting at a secluded table with an amazing view. The commander sure knows how to pick his spots. He gives you a quick wave as you near the table he's picked. I didn't know what you'd like, but I figured it's late, so I got you some hot chocolate. Let me know if you'd like something else instead, and I'll order it. That's perfect. Thank you, Commander. He looks slightly uncomfortable at your words, but quickly recovers. You can call me Mike if you'd like. Technically, I'm not your superior. Not so formal, then. What should we call him? Okay. Thank you, sir. He frowns a little, but quickly returns to a neutral expression. So, about the interview. Let me start by letting you know that this is the full interview. If you pass, tomorrow is more of an orientation. That's a surprise, but today's been full of surprises. I guess it's like ripping off a band-aid. Besides, I apologize for taking you by surprise like this, but I prefer to get more raw, unpolished answers. I'm just going to go straight in. Let me know at any point if you'd like to stop. Some questions can get quite personal. Of course, you're welcome to ask me any questions as well. You can't help but think. Even personal ones? Damn it, Alex, this isn't what this is about. You catch yourself spacing out for a second. The commander seems to be patiently waiting for you to process everything. First question. He's brought out a notepad and pen. Would you tell me a little more about your experiencing in networking? I've worked at my current job for a few years now. I started out by working tech support for consumer-grade customers. Things went pretty fast and it only took me a few months for me to get promoted to my current department. I currently work with tech support for VIP customers and I also coach my colleagues. When needed, I also work in network infrastructure and help extend our own network. I've talked to your boss, Julia. She praised you highly. I wouldn't sell yourself as short as you do. Oh no, what did Julia tell him? Next thing, I noticed there was a note on your application from your colleague Nick. Oh right, Nick did something to your application. Honestly, I'm not sure what he did. He wrote something and handed it over to Julia before I could see. Don't worry, it's not something bad. Let's just say he changed your answer on the question about what certifications you have. The people around you all seem to think you sell yourself short, and they seem to think highly of you. Nick. Next part. Under family and relationships, you left the field blank. Does this mean you're on your own? There's no one special in my life at the moment. I can't help but feel like I'm intruding. But any family? I lost my mother to dementia last year. The rest of my family and I have not been on speaking terms ever since a few years back. I'm sorry. You can see genuine pain in his eyes as he looks towards you. He wasn't lying when he said the questions would get personal. And under sexuality, here it comes. I'm glad to let you know that there's no prejudice among anyone in my crew. Crew? He probably let that slip. That's good to know. Questions continue for about an hour and you both order another hot chocolate. It's mostly questions related to your past life and it feels somewhat like an extended personality test. I think that settles it for my questions. I'll level with you once again. Out of the questions on the personality test, only 3 candidates in total made the cut. You're one of them. I'm going to offer you the job. However, before you say yes or no, I'll also let you ask any questions you need. And you should be informed that after this point, anything you get to know includes total secrecy. As in, do not let anyone on the outside know anything about the rest of our conversations, regardless of what happens. Just gonna... He's always watching. I don't mean to threaten you, but there would be legal action taken by various government agencies if you were to attempt to leak any information. Besides, I've been told that what I'm about to tell you is hard to believe without seeing it first, and there's enough uncertainties in this world without us causing more chaos. That said, do you have any questions for me before I tell you about the job? What did he just say? Did I get the job? And what's that about 3 candidates? Does that mean Nick also made it because he's here? Here goes nothing. I have a few questions. Let's start with the obvious one. Enough secrecy. What exactly is this job? How am I supposed to know if I'm qualified? The job itself is supposedly not that difficult. We need someone familiar with different kinds of networking equipment. In essence, the main technical qualifications you'll need is being able to build and maintain a few servers, and connect them to a new interface. As in, you need to be able to tell our engineers how the network you set up works with bits and bytes. That's not even halfway as complicated as you'd imagine. And this confirms the suspicions about new tech. That leads to the next question. That makes me wonder though, how come there's only 3 people who made the cut? Because what you described is, as you said, not that difficult. He shifts a little in his chair, as if pondering how to word the next part. It's about your personality and your personal profile. Everything from your family, where you're from geographically, all the way to your sexuality. That's odd, but in a way it makes sense. He basically only recruited from a pool of people they knew could handle the technical work. That makes sense. He gives you a relieved smile, but once again looks a little uncomfortable. The next few reasons are what might put you off from this. The next reason is that we need someone with your physiology to research immunity. Immunity? As you might have figured out from the long absence required for this, the entire process does not take place in this country. Well, not on this planet, in fact. Space travel? I'm not really a trained astronaut. That's not the problem with our tech. Not at all. Space travel in a large vessel like the Firefly is not unlike your daily life here. There's artificial gravity, and you can adjust it for personal preference. I feel like I'm doing a sales pitch here. He clearly wants you to accept the terms. I'll keep that in mind. I'll tell you a bit more about our mission then. What do you know of quantum entanglement? You recall the one lecture you had on the subject when you were in school. You'd only passed on the subject briefly, as the main point was philosophy. The idea had been that 2 objects can be entangled together, so what happens to one happens to the other. Not much. If I recall correctly, it's the idea that 2 objects can be entangled together. Whatever happens to one object affects the other. He looks a little surprised at your summary. That's the gist of it. The idea is that you can entangle an object or space with another object or space. For example, if we entangle a room in a research facility here with a room in a building on another planet, Then we place an assortment of molecules of similar amounts in both rooms. We can then change the contents of one room and mold them into what we need. Be it a list of information, a new process, or for a chemical reaction. Technically, we can even teleport things with only the information of what it contains. If we, through quantum entanglement, can take the composition of an individual, for example, and send that information to the entangled room, we could theoretically teleport someone. That's not the main goal of this research, though. There are a few moral problems with that. You can think of more than a few. They wouldn't be the same person, would they? That's a problem for the philosophers. For the record, I think you're right, which is why we're limiting it to sending data. You'll get to know more about it tomorrow, and you'll get to meet some of my colleagues. This is where you come in. It's about hooking up networking equipment from this world to our equipment. This world? There's something you're not being told here. This world? You caught that? Good. Mike looks around, there's nobody else around. Everyone else is left by now. This is also part of why your psychological profile is important. It's expected that you can handle this. You blink. Once. Twice. 3 times. You're certain that was hot chocolate you'd been drinking. Maybe you had confused it for something with alcohol. In front of you is someone who looks like Commander Mike Steele, only it's a bear. A bear man, to be precise. You rub your eyes once more and take a step back to make sure what you saw was real. Thank you for welcoming my special kind of bullshit. Well, that's not a bad reaction. Your eyes are not fooling you. I'm not human. That's also where we're going, by the way. To my homeworld. You blink once more. And before you is once again the human version of the commander. Sorry to scare you like that, but there's no real easy way to explain it without showing it first. You're from another world, then? A space daddy bear. Huh. That's new. Everything else aside, I'll go along with the idea without doubting too much for now. But, how did you change? Mike holds up his arm, showing you his watch. Oh god, the, stats thing is gone. I swear I need to keep that up. It works with the power of suggestion. It emits a suggestive sound and smell, even minuscule sonic waves. It suggests to you that I'm human, and therefore I look human. Although now it might stop working on you in just a bit. Technically, it's used for stealth, but this works just as well. So he's not human. Things are adding up, strangely enough. Is that what the immunity research is about? He looks a little surprised. Sharp. It is. We're going to another world. And to do that safely, we need to research versions of vaccines for common diseases before we get there. Vaccines that'll work on humans. It's a vital part of our mission, in order to be able to cooperate properly. So what do you think? It's a lot to take in. You scratch your forehead, covering your eyes with your hand for a second. And just like he said it would, the device on his arm stopped working against you. Your eyes must have given it all away. He raises an eyebrow in realization, and then a smile returns. You can answer tomorrow. Take your time, Alex. The bear hands you a business card. It has his name, title, and phone number. If you ever need to call or text me. Oh god, he's winking. What about Nick? He's also here. Does that mean he also got the job? Yes, he should be having a separate interview with one of my colleagues right now. Somehow that's very comforting. You'll be able to discuss this with Nick later. You wonder if he's also talking to a bear. Good thing I have time to think things through. There's also one final bit of information you should know when considering the offer. Mike looks sad. What is it? The reason we're going to our world and the entire reason we're here in the first place. We're here to start working on a weapon together with the top researchers from Earth. A weapon? That does not sound good. It's to stop this world from ending, like ours did. Your world ended? What? In a whimper, Mike speaks with sorrow in his voice. His voice is steady, but it is clear that what he's telling you about is not a pleasant memory. We don't know exactly what they came from yet, but one day, all of a sudden, our world was invaded. Beings that did not try to communicate. At first, they just wandered our world, aimlessly. We attempted to communicate, but as we sent diplomats, they were absorbed. Their very life was drained, in seconds, and the creatures changed. They grew larger, faster, and hungry. Everywhere they went, they absorbed all kinds of life. Plants, animals, people, even the air changed. Of course we fought them, and we still launch attacks when we can. But everywhere they go, all that's left behind is a cloud of white ash. It singes the skin and burns your lungs. It rots the ground it touches. We call it the Endless White. That is what we're fighting. Suddenly, Mike looks tired. I think that covers it. Do you have any other questions? I'll probably have some tomorrow, after I process everything properly. He gives you a nod. The look of exhaustion he just had on his face is almost gone. There will be more thorough explanations then as well. He stands up and gives you a once-over. That's my dog. I'll pick you up tomorrow, at about 9. I'll wait in the lobby. Alex, please consider the offer carefully. And have a good night. Good night, Commander. He gives you a smile as he leaves. Well, that took a turn. You're still processing the fact that he turned out to be a bear. A space daddy bear. And then there's the entire thing about being from another world. And space travel. You finish up your hot chocolate and retire to your hotel room. It does not take long to shower and clean up for the night. Still, you're restless. That sure was a lot. It's risky and exciting. Better off distracting myself for a bit so that I can sleep properly. There will be time to consider things properly tomorrow. You remember a game you played a few weeks back? Limits VN. A new version is out on itch.io. Perfect. This should help distract you. The characters sure are all very handsome and have interesting personalities. Except that one time one of them put a screwdriver in a washing machine. Himbo. You boot up the game on your phone. The time has come, my child. It's time to take action. Seek him and save him. Father? Then everything shall be clear. What you do is up to you. Know your limits. Know thyself. Seek him and save him. Then everything shall be clear. What if I could find that someone? That reminds you of the one lecture you had on quantum entanglement. It was a philosophy class, not a physics class. But the subject was interesting. It was a lecture on Aristotle. Love is composed of a single soul inhabiting two bodies. Aristotle. What if two hearts or souls can be entangled? Would their feelings connect? Would you feel their pain and their sadness? Would you share their joy? Quantum entanglement, huh? Entangled souls would mean there's someone out there. That would be nice. And a little scary. The universe is apparently bigger than you thought after all. That didn't distract you very well. Let's keep playing. You could use some quality time with the characters before you go to sleep. One of them really likes chocolate. That's pretty cute. If I were the character in the game, I'd buy him a box of chocolates. You lose yourself in the game, and before you know it, you finish the latest version. That helped you relax. The morning comes fast, but you feel rested. You must have slept well. The morning after. You and Nick decided to grab a breakfast at the cafe where Commander Steele interviewed you last night. You caught up fast. Seems like your interviews were similar, but Nick had been interviewed by a large tiger. That was interesting. Something felt off during the entire interview, and when he revealed that he wasn't human, it took me a minute to realize that I wasn't dreaming. He was huge. He almost scared me when I still thought he was human, so when he appeared as a tiger, I'm still surprised that I managed to remain as calm as I did. I think you got a scarier experience than I did on that one. It definitely seemed like he wanted to make sure I was ready for anything. That, or he just liked scaring me. In contrast to what Nick just told you, Commander Steele seemed gentle. That must be one scary tiger. It still feels very surreal to me. Hopefully we'll get to know more about it today. Nick looks like he's in deep thought for a minute. Do you need a minute? Nick looks back towards you with an unexpected intensity in his eyes. That. What is happiness and what is fulfillment to you? The question caught you off guard. As in, can you be happy without being fulfilled? And can you be fulfilled without being happy? I remember a deep conversation with you. We were both pretty drunk, but something you said struck me. You said, sometimes I feel like there's no place in this world for people like me. And I can't help but wonder, what did you mean with people like you? You remember the conversation. It was when you and Nick had just started connecting. I was pretty depressed at the time, but the same feeling still remains after the fact. Gay. For some reason, even though I know that it should not, it still hurts saying it out loud. Lonely, stuck in a job which isn't moving forward in a small town. What prospects are there? What am I supposed to aim for? Where am I supposed to go? Things would be easier if I was straight. Damn, didn't mean to let that last part out. Might as well let it all out now. Maybe Nick has some insight. He clearly has a place he wants to bring this conversation. I could go forward in life trying to earn as much money as possible without while worrying about little else. Get a pretty wife, raise a few kids, an older girl and a younger boy. I'd focus on making them happy. That'd be fulfillment, wouldn't it? I'm fairly sure that'd be happiness. But that's not you, is it? No, it's not. So what do you want to do in life? What's the end game? I want to change the world. I want to make an impact, something lasting. Something that makes life better for everyone. What about love? I'd like to be loved, and I'd also like to love. Isn't that happiness? I don't know. There would have to be that feeling of a happy ending. How would you know before you're actually at the end? You wouldn't. Here's what I think. Happiness is relative. Fulfillment is relative. It has to be what you make of it from your perspective. Where you are right now. Your point of view, your dreams, your reality. If you can be happy where you are right now, relative to where you want to be, that can make you happy. That's also why it's personal. It's all relative to you. Your wishes, your dreams, your wants. And I want to change the world. So, here's your chance. Fuck your doubts. Screw your fears. The chance is there, reach out and take it. Fuck the world that's keeping you back. Let's go to the stars. You have never seen Nick this passionate before, about anything. You can't help but wonder. Nick, are you happy? I think I am. I have friends I like, a job I enjoy, and I live in a place where I'm liked. That's all I want. You know, you've seen me at my lowest point, Alex. That's really why I've thought a lot about fulfillment. And it makes me sad to hear it when you say you think there's no place for you. Regardless of what I think about that being true or not, here's the chance. Take it. I'm going to go. I said yes to going earlier. Aren't you happy here? I'm happy, but I'm not fulfilled. I want to see how far I can go. And I think all my friends will still be here when I come back. Do you have any doubts Julia will give me my old job back when I come back? You can't help but smile. That is true. No doubts. So let's do this. Let's go to the stars. It'd be quite the adventure. You finish up your breakfast and make your way to the hotel lobby. You wait for the commander together. As you wait, you can't help but get the feeling that you should probably be more scared than you are. But isn't that why they picked Nick and I? Commander Steele had mentioned it yesterday. The profiling test you did shows that the two of you would be able to handle it. What was it in this case? Aliens? The idea of space travel? Or the idea of world-ending creatures? I'm definitely not sure I can handle it. You look at Nick. Nick, can I ask you something? Nick looks at you. What's up? Do you have any doubts at all about this entire thing? How do you mean? As in, do you think we can handle everything? I feel like it's a lot to take in. You're right, but at the same time, no way to know but to take the leap. Is there? I guess that's true. Silence falls for a minute. Eventually you look over at Nick. Nick has a look of contemplation on his face. When the commander shows up, I wonder if I'll be seeing him as a human, or it would be a lie to say that I'm not interested in finding that out. What about the tiger that Nick mentioned? Will you see him as a human at first? Looks like we won't have to wait long to find out. You spot the big bear approaching you from across the hotel lobby. He stops and picks up a hat someone dropped, returning it. He then gives them a curt bow. That's very polite of him. He definitely sticks out now that his device doesn't work on you. Nick lowers his voice. Nope, still human. That's one of many questions answered. I wonder how all the people around you would react if they could see what you're seeing. Maybe this is what the future holds? Maybe there have been people like Commander around all along and nobody ever knew. Lions, tigers, and bears, oh my. The same sentence you thought of earlier echoes in your mind. Only one way to find out. The commander arrives in front of you and greets you. Good morning. He has a warm smile on his face. Did you two get enough rest? We had breakfast earlier. I'm rested and ready. Nick has a weird look on his face as he speaks. There should be no yawning from me today. The commander looks at Nick and raises an eyebrow. Did Charles scare you that badly? Guess Charles is the name of the big tiger that interviewed Nick. Nick sighs in response to the commander's question. A little bit, but he wasn't wrong. It's the commander's turn to sigh. I'd like to apologize to you, Nick. Dr. Stevenson can get intense. He put his hand on Nick's shoulder. Sorry. I should have waited and interviewed you myself. Thank you, sir, but it's cool. He did manage to convince me to say yes, and he was very informative. Mike smiles once more and removes his hand from Nick's shoulder. I'm glad. We're lucky to have you on board. Seeing how passionate he is about it all, you can't help but wonder if Nick knows something you don't. Guess I'll see if I get to meet this Dr. Stevenson today, that is. Where are we heading? We have our base of operations set up not too far away. It's within walking distance. Unless you two would prefer I call for a cab. Car. You look to Nick. I wouldn't mind a short walk. How about you, Nick? You didn't get a lot of sleep in the last few days. To be honest, I wouldn't mind a car this time. I can call for a taxi. Don't worry about it. The commander sends a message on his phone. The car should be here in just a minute. If Charles did what I think he did yesterday, I doubt you got a lot of sleep. He gives Nick a look that portrays a certain level of guilt. Nick just gives him a smile in return. Thank you, sir. The commander once again raises an eyebrow. Even though I'm now technically your superior, you can call me Mike if you'd like. I can't help but feel that it would be a little disrespectful, sir. Sorry. The commander gives him a soft smile at that. You wait for a few minutes making small talk. The commander asks you a few questions about the networks and tech you have worked with previously. He listens with great attention and asks a few questions. After a while, the commander receives a message on his phone. The car is waiting for us outside. Are you two ready to go? Ready as can be. Are you excited as I am? I can't really deny that. I am. The two of you turn and follow your guide out of the hotel. And towards another limousine? Guess that's just how things are from now on. The three of you get in the car. After a short car ride, you arrive at what looks like to be a generic office building. We're here. Space Bear Productions. Really? He laughs at that. Sorry, the crew voted for the name. Not that I tried to stop them. Not what I expected. Three of you enter the building together. Your first impression of the building interior is what you'd expect from most lobbies. There's a front desk manned by a lady that looks just like a librarian. A few places to sit and wait, although nobody is waiting. There's also a security checkpoint with metal scanners. You would definitely have a hard time getting through the checkpoint if you weren't supposed to. But it still doesn't look out of the ordinary for a large corporation. The commander checks you in with an ID card. And instead of going through security, you just walk to the side, then through a door and towards an elevator. After a quick elevator ride, you arrive at your destination and the commander leads you out of the elevator. The commander stops for a second and turns to Nick. 1 second. The commander touches his watch. Did he turn his stealth device off? You look to Nick, who's looking directly at the commander. That's a yes. The commander extends his arm for a handshake. A proper introduction is in order, since we'll be working together soon. Nick takes the handshake. Nice to meet you, Nick. Thanks, Commander. Nick gives you a wink before turning and leading you further into the facility. I can't help but ask, is Space Bear Productions a real company? Just as the commander is about to answer, you hear an energetic voice interject. It is! We make short stories about space. The commander doesn't say anything. Instead, he patiently waits for the young man who just approached you to finish. He looks to be a little younger than you. Most cute or fun stuff, like the lonely star who found friendship. Not sure I've ever heard about that story before. It's a novel from the world we're from. Meet Max, apprentice navigator. He's young, but he's good at what he does. Nice to meet you. He puts his hand forward for a handshake. As you reach out to grab his hand, your vision fails you. It's like a sudden intrusion. Your vision of the young man in front of you seems to shift between different phases. His form shifts, but you're not sure into what. You look over to Nick, and he gives you a strange look. Looks like whatever you're experiencing has not happened to him. Alex? Are you okay? You cover your eyes with your hand. This is not ideal. You try to gather your thoughts, but it's difficult. Crap. You start to wonder what's happening to you. Are you alright? Crap. And then, a warm hand lands softly on your shoulder. A voice whispers in your ear, calmly. Imagine a dragon. A dragon? Yes. With black scales. An image is starting to form in your head. A dragon? What? He has yellow eyes. I guess it's not that far-fetched, all things considered. Imagine how he might look like. Make an image in your head. It doesn't have to make sense. Easier said than done. You're already trying to. He's someone like me. He's not human. You word your thoughts. He's not human. You probably realize, but your brain doesn't know where to place him yet. So imagine him. Give your idea form and shape. Just like if you were drawing a picture. You imagine how an artist paints, filling a canvas. Shape and color. Take your time. Black scales and yellow eyes. And then, when you're ready, open your eyes and look carefully. Take another few seconds to gather your thoughts. It's easier now. You focus on the image in your head, and then you take the leap and open your eyes. There he is, almost exactly like you had imagined. It's like your brain has taken the pieces it knew was there and finally put them all in the right place. That was interesting. Thanks. The commander gives you what is quickly becoming one of his trademark smiles. Good job. Nick looks at you with slight worry. Feel better? Much better. I'm guessing you didn't have that same experience? Nope. What happened? You turn to the young dragon. Max? Nick looks over to Max. Could you turn the stealth device off? Oh, I'm so sorry. You don't notice any difference when he does, but the look on Nick's face says it all. It's a look of mixed confusion and excitement. Are you alright? I'm fine, just had an odd experience with that thing. You point at his watch. It's like I saw you 3 or 4 times at once. Scrambler? He figured out that you weren't human, but his brain probably didn't know quite how to place you. I imagine you've never seen a dragon before, Alex? He looks at you as he asks the question. Never. Dragons only exist in the stories in this world. Again, you have the urge to ask the question. It would be a little weird to ask, wouldn't it? Could he breathe fire? You resist the temptation this time. Nick looks at Max. That's awesome! And that's after all the things I've learned in the last few days. Nick puts his hand forward and shakes Max's hand. Nice to meet you. I'm Nick. Nice to meet you too. Max once again puts his hand forward for you to shake it. This time, you shake his hand without issue. It's warm and softer than you would have thought. That means you're... He looks like he's trying to remember something. Alex? Yup. Despite my initial reaction, nice to meet you. You shake your head slowly. I mean, no offense, it's a little surreal still. Sorry. It's awesome. What? I guess that means I'm a living legend. That's an optimistic outlook. Odd question, but... Have you ever read any literature from Earth? About our take on creatures like you? About dragons? It's a favorite subject of mine, to be honest. Nick is usually fine, but asking someone if he likes reading about dragons just because he's a dragon himself? That's awkward. Not yet. Do you have a favorite? There's an entire list. I'll have to bring some with me. A question pops up in your mind. How does space navigation work? As far as you know, you actually don't need to navigate usually. It's all calculated ahead of time. It's only if something unforeseen happens, like rogue gravity waves or unavoidable sunstorms or... He sure is energetic. He finishes up his sentence with more than a few things and even some words you've never heard before. The commander laughs at the enthusiasm. In the unlikely case of anything unexpected happening, Max's job is to help guide us around it. There's no actual navigation to be done if everything goes as planned. Do things go wrong on these trips? Max must have noticed the look on your face. Not that anything has gone wrong yet. Max blushes a little. The commander lets out a tiny sigh, but keeps a smile. Now then, would you like some coffee or tea before we meet Dr. Stevenson? Now that he mentions it, a little break would probably be good. After that unexpected experience, you suddenly feel a little tired. Max showing up and being so energetic just exacerbated it. Quite the contrast. I wouldn't mind some tea. I could go for some tea. Tea for both then. Alright. Anything for you, Max? I'll come help you out. Be right back then. The big bear leads the way down the corridor, the dragon following closely. You can hear Max talking a little bit too fast as they make their way to another room. I'm just gonna wait for this stream to catch up. Sorry, but software does not like this game at all. There we go, all caught up. Both you and Nick take a seat on the sofa as you wait. A dragon. Would never have expected anything like it. He's pretty unique. There's a moment of silence. How did you know? You're going to have to clarify the question a little. How did you know that he was dragon? You didn't. I didn't. Not fully. I expected him to not be human. But it's like my head imagined a tiger, or a lion even. I guess my brain didn't want to see him as human. I just couldn't piece it together. Nick raises an eyebrow at that. I think I understand what you're saying. You do have an eye for detail. I don't think it was anything special. Nick has a look like he's struggling to find the right words. I think you're selling yourself short. You might not think it matters, but... Nick is interrupted as Max arrives with a few paper cups in his hand. He hands the cup to Nick with a smile. He seems a little calmer. Thanks. Just a few seconds later, you notice Commander Steele approaching with a paper cup in each hand. He hands you the paper cup with a smile. Here you go. The tea smells just right. Thank you, Commander. Ready to go meet the doc? That reminds me, I need to go pick up a package for him. It was great to meet you, Nick and Alex. Bye. Take care, Max. The commander waves at him as he leaves. The doctor's office is just down the hall. Are y'all having, issues with the stream? Because it's saying that the network is unstable. You and Nick trail after the bear. He leads you down the hallway and stops by a door marked Research Department. I'm gonna try refreshing the page. Maybe it's just messed. He knocks softly on the door. A deep voice responds, Yes? It's Mike Steele. The door opens and in front of you, suddenly, is a large tiger. He's taller than Commander Steele. You can see why Nick was intimidated at first. The commander hands the tiger a paper cup. He must have gotten something to drink for him as well. Thank you. Ah, Nick, welcome. Did you get any rest? Hi there, Dr. Stevenson. There was a lot of information to take in yesterday. But I'm more than ready. Can't wait. The tiger puts his hand out for a handshake as he looks at you. Charles Stevenson, it's a pleasure to meet you, Alex. Seems like everyone already knows who you are. Nice to meet you, Dr. Stevenson. He looks you up and down, studying you carefully. Welcome to Space Bear Productions. Or, as you might soon come to know us, the crew of the Firefly. Although he's quite physically intimidating and has a stern look, he doesn't seem that scary. I wonder what Nick meant. Is that the spaceship? You're fairly sure that's what the commander called it in your interview. But there's no harm in asking, right? For some reason, all of a sudden, you feel really self-conscious. If you know the answer, why even ask? The stern look on his face combined with the few seconds it takes to get an answer is definitely not helping your confidence here. And then, the name is quite interesting due to a few reasons. What do you know of combustion engines? Isn't that just a normal engine? Jim, I probably look pretty stupid. I should probably answer still. In short, it's an engine that uses fuel to produce energy, I think. Not sure why I added that last part. I'm sure of what I said. He looks a little surprised. That's a good explanation. He doesn't think you're stupid. Now I feel stupid for expecting the worst. Maybe you do sell yourself short sometimes. The first prototype of the Firefly used combustion engines. It used to light up when it took off, just like a firefly in the night. So that's where the name comes from. The first prototype does still look like a firefly? I'd like to see it sometime. She looks different now, but she's still quite the sight. As our technology has advanced, she's been rebuilt. There have been quite a few new versions of the ship. Thinking about it, the Firebird might have been a more fitting name. He smiles. Rising from the ashes, you can't help but think about the endless white. All that's left behind is a cloud of white ash. It seems like the tiger had the same thought. It's quite poetic. Now, how do you respond to that? You don't have to, as Nick continues the thought. Like a firebird fallen from the sky, rising from the ashes of its own demise. I think it's a romantic view. It's not the traditional love, but for the love of life itself. He rises from death itself and prevails. Charles looks towards Commander Steele. Not one, but two poets? If Alex joins us, the journey home might be quite interesting. It's up to you to explain our mission, and convince him. The bear winks at you. It'd be a pleasure to have you along for the journey, Alex. You try not to read into that. I'll leave them in your care, Charles. He sighs. Try not to scare anyone this time. Without missing a beat, and with a serious look, the tiger responds. It's important that they know any risks. It is. But no growling. You could swear the tiger actually looked like he was ashamed for a second. By the way, Mike, looks like these two take care of themselves, unlike you. What? The bear raises an eyebrow. You're the only coffee drinker here, Mike. Oh, now that he mentions it, it does smell like some strong coffee. You should lay off the stuff. It's not good for you. 3 against 1, huh? Even the stern-looking tiger smiles at that. The tiger chuckles softly. As if in defiance, the commander takes a sip of his drink. Let's get started then. We should be done at lunchtime, Commander. Send me a message and I'll be right over. With a wave, the bear turns around and leaves you with the doctor. Charles enters the room and motions for you to follow. Looks like there's a large table prepared with seats and a whiteboard. This is the briefing of our mission. If you have any questions, just ask. As I mentioned earlier, it's preferable if you know as much about any potential risks as possible. Nick takes the seat next to you. He looks to be quite excited about this. To summarize it, we have succeeded in entangling 2 physical spaces. As in, we have achieved quantum entanglement. And our mission is to travel back to Arctos, the planet where I'm from, and set up a base on a nearby planet, where you will then help our engineers connect equipment from this world to our technology. This is in order to send data between the 2 worlds using the entangled areas. Arctos. What exactly is entanglement? The commander explained it a little, but I'm not versed in quantum physics. The tiger walks up to the whiteboard and picks up one of the markers. The tiger draws a small circle on one side of the whiteboard, and then another circle on the other side of the whiteboard. Quantum entanglement of 2 objects, or spaces in this case, can be explained like this. We link the 2 objects' properties to one another. He draws arrows around one of the orbs as to show it as if it were spinning. That means if we were to make one of the objects, for example, spin, he draws the same arrows around the other one. Then the other one would spin as well. They share properties, no matter where in the universe they are. He erases the circles from the whiteboard. Would you like another example? Should we ask for another example? If no one's going to say anything, then we should be good. That's a lot. It's hard to imagine in reality, but that makes sense somehow. Thank you. The tiger looks a little surprised at the last two words in your sentence. You're welcome. If quantum mechanics interests you, I'd be happy to tell you more about the Firefly at some point. Like how we don't use combustion engines, but instead harness extra-dimensional gravitational energy. That sounds complicated. Your technology sounds way more advanced than anything from our world. It's different. He looks very serious at that, but in the end, we're the ones asking for your help. So Alex, Nick has already agreed since yesterday. You know the essence of our mission. I understand the commander also told you about our enemy, the Endless White. What's your answer? To be honest, I'd like to know more about the Endless White first. Did the tiger just smile? Nick looks a little surprised. I understood we're not actually going to Arctos. There shouldn't be any worry about it. Should there? I'll tell you about it. And show you. Show us? Let's start with the explanation. Once again, he motions for you to follow. He walks over to a desk and opens a small safe that's on top of it. He then brings out a small test tube with a cork in it. Inside it, there's what looks like ash. Is that the Endless White? It's some of the ash left behind. You look intently at the test tube. It's strangely colorless. It's not like it's white or gray, more like there's just an absence of what your brain would assume should be there. Somehow it just feels quiet. It's inert, as in it will not permanently damage you. But I'd like for you to touch it, Alex. Why specifically Alex, Doc? The tiger gives Nick an intense look, because I believe he's more likely to give me an honest reaction of any danger he feels. Nick doesn't respond. The doctor's probably right. Nick can get a little carried away. You want me to touch it? I almost feel too shy to ask, but... And what's that about damage? It will sting and burn as you touch it, so do not hold on to it for long. I'd like to observe how it affects you physically. And it will give you a real idea of the threat of the mission. I thought we were not going to Arctos itself. We are not. However, I'd rather you prepare for the worst possible outcome. Should I really do this? The doctor did say that it was safe. Without risk, how do you move forward? You've been thinking that a lot recently. Fuck it. How do we do this? Put out your hand, and with your palm up, I'll put some on your palm. If it burns too much or you need to let go, just turn your hand and let it fall on the table. That seems pretty simple. Maybe it really isn't that dangerous. Put your hand forward and turn your palm up. Nick is watching closely. The tiger opens up the test tube and grabs some ash with some tweezers. He gently drops it onto your hand. At first you didn't notice anything special. It feels light, but then there's a slight tingling sensation. It slowly evolves into a very uncomfortable feeling. But there's no burning like he said there would be. It's uncomfortable, but it does not burn. You take your other hand and move the ash with your finger. Interesting. There's no mark at all. No burning sensation at all? No. But you are very uncomfortable. It's like your mind is in panic. Almost like a headache without the pain. But the tiger raises an eyebrow. It's like my mind is wanting to let go of it. It almost feels like I'm a child being yelled at. Or like I just woke up from a bad dream. Let go of it, Alex. You turn your hand upside down and the ash drops from your hand. The doctor picks it up with the tweezers and places it back in the test tube. Seems like the idea of humans from this part of Earth being resistant is true. Now then, take a minute and consider the mission. Then, you do have the chance to actually see another world. I'll go with you. The tiger looks like he's expecting more for a second, but then... Thank you, Alex and Nick. The two of you mean more than you think. I look forward to it. It's a once-in-a-lifetime chance, after all. You hear a growl. It's coming from the tiger. He's not growling. It's his stomach. Perfect time for lunch. I'll let the commander know we're done. He sends a message on his phone, and shortly the commander walks in the door. It says, all set? Did Charles try and scare you off? Not at all. He was kind and informative. Did he bring out the whiteboard? He's quite good at teaching, and the whiteboard is quite remarkable. Charles lets out an audible groan at that. I'm glad he didn't scare you off. You think the worst of me, Mike. He has an exasperated look on his face. You did your best to scare Nick off. I trust you, Charles, and that's why I asked you to do the briefing. It's about asking Alex's opinion, if he's to be part of our crew. The tiger breaks into a smile. You're easy to tease, Mike. He's not wrong, you know. You're here, aren't you? I am, and I did get to know everything from the start. Alright then, time for some lunch. Then I'd like to hear your decision, Alex. I'm going to get some lunch from a cafe down the street if you would like to join me. I need to make a phone call and then I'll be heading to the hotel for a bit. I'll eat lunch there and do some work on my laptop, making a list of what to bring. Not a bad idea. I still have work to do. I'm just going to grab a snack and get back to it. You're welcome to join me for lunch tomorrow if you have any more questions, Alex. About anything. You were interested in extra-dimensional energy? They do have some interesting technology. But a walk sounds perfect, Commander. I'll drop you off at the hotel afterwards. It was a pleasure meeting you, Alex. The doctor grabs a small note from his pocket and writes something on it. Here's my number. Call me at any point if you have any questions. Or if you just want to talk. That's sweet of him. Thanks for the briefing. I'll see you all tomorrow. I'll see you later then, Charles. Bye, Dr. Stevenson. We're going to leave off there tonight.